You're on.
I'm on. Hi, I'm Lucky Stradley. My business is called Something Lucky. You're here at my studio today, and I was explaining to Harry how the process of making my pottery goes. We pug it out from a pug mill in long pieces that are like sausages, cut it to the size we want, put it in a bin. I throw them on the potter's wheel, which is over there. Once I throw them, I cut them off, and then we put them underneath this plastic so that they become leather hard. When we're ready to sculpt, we take one out and we put it on the wheel. I've made eyes and teeth. And this is an example of the teeth that I make. It is porcelain clay. So I roll it out into a snake. I begin to shape it. And then I lay it on a tray and we put it out in the sun and they dry. Once they're dry, they're put into these little bins. And when we get ready to sculpt, I'll take some clay, roll it out into a snake, put it on the pot, stitch it in. This is a very rough. And I take another little piece of clay, roll it out into a snake. I choose some teeth. So let me grab this bin. I'm gonna grab some teeth. I'll put the teeth in by first dipping them in water. Place it on the pot. I stitch, that's the gum. And then I take another piece of clay, roll it in the basic shape that I want, begin to sculpt it in my hand before I put it on. Stitch that down, stitch this up. That's basically how we sculpt. We continue on with the eyes, the mouth. Once we're finished, we put it on the rack and they dry. And then we put them into the kiln. We have 3 kilns. They come out of the bisque load and then we put them on a table and we wet sand them. Over there where Donna has been working. And then we begin to apply the underglaze, which is the glazes that we put on the face of the pieces, and then we clear coat the eyes, nose, mouth, and then we put the glaze on the back and the inside of the balls, and we put them back through the kiln for their final firing. And when they come out, we sand them once again, take pictures, put it on our Facebook, and put it on our Etsy. So that's sort of the process of making the pottery with faces on them. Before we put them on.
You put different sizes in, then they'd be cockeyed, huh?
Well, sometimes we put a large eye and a small eye, especially when we do something like a monstrosity.
Yeah, those are eyes.
Yeah. And we made forms for each size eye. So this form makes this size and this form makes that size.
Okay.
So after I put my eyes on, I put the eyelids on.
Now, to me, the eyes are really what makes it.
Yeah.
How do you glaze those eyes to look so real?
Well, there are several different styles of glazing the eyes. We can try to make them more realistic. We can try to make them kind of caricaturish. It just sort of depends on the feel that of the piece and the direction that we set the eyes. So after they've been washed, when they're in bisque, then I draw the eyes on them, and we call that setting the gaze. So they might look up, they might look down, they might look crossed, and it kind of gives the piece that little bit of extra personality, you know, because if they all just look straight forward, they would look very stagnant.
Oh yeah.
So depending on how it was glazed, how it was sculpted, that will determine a lot of times where they look. And then,
Yeah, I have a mug. Well, I have three different sizes of mugs, all the way up to the big one, and they all have different gazes.
uh-huh.
Now, the middle one, which is the one I drink the most because it's the right size, looks angry. And the other two are happy as clams. And if I remember right, the smallest one you made for me, and I told you what kind of expression I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people buy the stock items, which is just like this bowl. I have no preconceived notion of what it's going to look like. I just began sculpting. Like the clay that I put on there doesn't much look like a nose, but when I get finished with it, it will be a nose. So a lot of people will send us pictures of bowls or just different things we've sculpted prior and ask us to duplicate it, and we tell them we can make a cousin, but we can't make an exact match because there's no way to get the clay to be this.
Yeah.
We can be very similar. Stradley's
Okay, and I'll take some more.
place in Wichita, Kansas, and I drew on a napkin while we were waiting for our order. And this guy walked by and asked me if that was for sale, and I said sure. And he said, "Would you take $15?" And that was in 1973. And I thought, holy moly, that'll buy a whole bag of groceries
For a napkin?
for a drawing on a napkin.
Wow.
And after that, I thought, well, I can support me and my son that way. But I went to college and got a degree in accounting, which I think is really good for any artist, because a lot of artists can create the art, but they don't understand the business end of it. And if you don't understand the business end of it,
You get taken to the cleaners.
well, you just fall into all the wrong pitfalls, and you don't understand about, so many aspects that a business person needs. And if you're going to make your living from it, you're a business person. You may be an artist, but to be successful, you need to be a business person also.
You still got to buy groceries.
You still got to know what your supplies cost. You got to know what you need to charge in order to justify the time that you spend.
And then you can add a little bit on top of that.
When you have to add enough that you have a profit.
Yeah.
And if your business gets to the point where you have employees, then you have to figure workman's comp, and you've got to figure matching taxes and wages. There's a lot to it. So just being an artist is okay, but if you want it to be a successful life venture, you need to look at it like it's a business.
If you're just an artist, then you end up dead and broke.
Well,
And
then
then
you
they buy,
become the starving artist.
then they buy your stuff.
Yeah, being a starving artist is not a great living.
No, and being an artist can be a wonderful living. It can be a wonderful life. There is pressure, but there is not pressure.
Yeah.
Because you're doing what you absolutely love to do. I do custom work where people tell me what they want, but most of the time I do what I just did with this little piece, and I did a little face pops out of the clay. And sometimes
And
I
then
think
that's basically done, huh?
it's basically done. It's going to
Dries
have to
out.
dry a little bit for me to put the rest of the detail. But when I get to this point, then I decide, do I want it to have a horn? Do I want it to have a little puppy dog ear? So all that can be,
Or a tail.
yeah. It can just, and you just decide what you're going to do. You say, well, I look like the puppy dog ears real well. So you just sort of.
And
This is
yeah,
what
I've
call
noticed on my mugs that they're very comfortable to hold.
Well, one of the last things we do after we sculpt, I put my hand over here as if I was holding it, and I make sure that even though I've put something on it, that nothing is going to hit my mouth, and every handle is made so that I can get at least 3 fingers in it. So
I'm glad your hand is about the same size as mine.
my son and a little quick note for you. So thanks for stopping by.